Hello everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Philip, I'm also known as PS or PS Enough. Today we are gonna make a video talking about Demoscene productions, mostly 64K Windows productions from the Demoscene. I'm gonna cover the ones from, or the best ones from 2009 up to 2019, and I'm gonna follow it up with a playlist so you guys can just check the rest of the intros and actually enjoy them instead of just hearing me talking about them. So this is a follow-up to a previous video that I had done covering the Windows 64KB intros from 2001 until 2009 pretty much. 2001 was pretty much the year that Windows started taking off as a platform for the demo scene, and that's where you started seeing the first 64Ks that were explicitly for Windows and not just ported from DOS. So yeah, on this second part of the video, we'll be focusing more on this past decade. There were some changes, some improvements in technology. I will try to cover that a little bit. So let's get right into it. So the first intro that I wanted to talk about was one of the few intros that were released in 2009. 2009 was a bit of a slow year for 64Ks. It saw the debut of a group called Approximate. There were a mixed nationalities group, I think both Sweden and UK. They released Ephemera that ended up winning the Scene.org award for the best 64K. It was released at sundown. So yeah, not much happening in 2009, but in 2010 we had a very interesting compo at Assembly. Assembly demo party was pretty much the main arena for 64K battles, mostly due to Fairlight being there a lot, Conspiracy also being there a lot. I did two errors on the previous video that we will mention shortly, but let's go through Assembly, and when I spot the errors I will let you guys know what I said wrong on the previous video. So third place at Assembly 2010 was this intro Ars Nova by Accept Corp. It ended up winning the Breakthrough Performance Award from the Scene.org Awards, so I thought it would be worth mentioning. I think it's a one-man show made by Phantom Lord. There could be some additional people helping him out, but I think it was a one-man show. Pretty good 64K. Nice breakthrough intro. Got third place at Assembly 2010. Then we had on second place Behind the Curtain by United Force and Digital Dynamite. Not quite Conspiracy because Sly Spy was doing a lot of the work on this one, I believe. And Sly Spy is not in Conspiracy, he's in Digital Dynamite, I believe. United Force is Boise and some other guys. So yeah, this one ended up second place at Assembly. It got nominated for the best 64KB intro Scene.org award, so also pretty good. And to win the things, to win the 64KB compo at Assembly, we had X Marks the Spot by Portal Process. It was an invitation for Function 2010. It won the Assembly 2010 competition, and it also won the Scene.org award for the best 64K intro. Code by Garble, code by Svok, and some synth music by Gargai. So the error that I wanted to mention was, since we're talking about Assembly, and Assembly being the best arena for the 64Ks, I forgot a very crucial intro on the previous video, which was by Conspiracy. The Prophecy Project Nemesis by Conspiracy was released in August 2004. It won the Assembly 2004. Didn't have much of competition on that particular compo, but it got a lot of praise and it won a Scene.org award for best 64K on that year, and I forgot all about it because there are so many Conspiracy intros. I knew there was an important one at Assembly because I was at this Assembly, so I remember the guys there finishing up the thing, that it had the big city explosion that at the time was very interesting. It was a whole write-up that Boise did explaining how he did the reflections and stuff like that. A lot of content into this intro. And one of the critics that I had on the previous video was that I wasn't really talking much about technology, so I can talk a little bit about technology behind the Prophecy Project Nemesis. It was made with their own editor called Addict. I think this was version 2 that they used on this one, and there were some talks on different demo parties of different people talking about their engines. The Farbrush guys talked about Workzoik. A&D talked about making his synth, how to improve his synth. So if you can find a lot of seminar talks about these kind of topics, and they gave I think it was Boise and Zoom, maybe they were on stage giving, maybe Gaia as well, giving this seminar talk about Addict, their tool. And there was this funny moment where they were explaining stuff that they could do with their tool, and one of the guys from Farbrush was in the audience, and when he noticed that they were doing something so easy, I think it was like particle path or something, he just blurted out, "Oh, I hate you," because their tool was so good. And it was like, "I hate you," but in reverence of their tool. And one of the guys from Conspiracy replied back, "Oh, I hate you too." So it was a very funny moment. Anyways, Addict was one of the main tools that they used for this, and it's been in development a few times. I'm not sure if it's open source, but it was available for other people to use. And SlicePy has been using it a lot to do not just intros, but demos as well. At this point was mostly doing vertex pushing, so you do the tool that optimizes the procedural generation of the 3D models and stuff, but you will see later on there will be an evolution to start using more pixel shaders to do the effects. Anyways, assembly was the main important demo party at the time, but it wasn't the only place where 64Ks were being released. In 2010 at D-Held we saw a very nice intro by Quite, which was a relatively new Russian group at the time, but this intro had a very reminiscent time of DOS intros by some Finnish groups, by the guys from Fudge. It had a very reminiscent sound and look of that, and people liked that a lot, so it got very high praise. 2011 we had the best arena for demo compo for 64Ks was still assembly, and this is another error that I mentioned on the previous video. I said that Fairlight ended their 64K career or runs in when they did Panic Room. That was not true. I was mistaking or merging Panic Room with this intro called Uncovering Static. Uncovering Static was a major landmark in 64Ks as well, and it was the year where assembly did not have enough entries to justify a 64K compo, so they merged the demo compo with the 64K intro compo, and this intro, despite being a 64K, got second place. And assembly demo compo is a very, like, a lot of groups release at the assembly demo compo, so to get second place on assembly demo compo is a pretty big deal. What else is worth mentioning about this? It used very interesting procedural generation stuff for both the buildings and the textures around it. It abused pixel shading a lot to do all the mapping. It had great lighting on it. I had a lot of particles. That's pretty much what I remember. I believe this used also what ended up being the 4-clang, which I'm not sure if at the time they were considering doing a 64-clang already, but the synth code is by Gopher and the music is by Reed, so it's probably using 4-clang or an early incarnation of what would end up being 4-clang. So it's by Fairlight and Alcatraz because of that. Alcatraz did the synth for it. So this was at Assembly 2011. And since the 64K compo at Assembly kind of died after this, the main arena for 64K started being the other major demo party that exists in the world, which is Revision, or was Revision at the time. Well, it still is Revision. Revision still is ongoing. Anyways, in Revision 2012, we had a very interesting demo compo. We got third place with The Scene Is Dead by Razor 1911. Got a lot of upvotes. It was started using those ray marching tricks. I'm not sure if ray marching or is it ray tracing. I always get those two techniques mistaken. But it uses pixel shaders to do most of the effects that you see on the thing. Music by Dubmood, code by Rez, another Razer 1911 64K. They did quite a few of them at the time. This got third place at the Revision 64K compo. The second place went for F. Felix's Workshop by Ctrl-Alt-Test. The French guys, they've been doing a lot of productions for quite a few years, and finally they got a bit of spotlight on this revision. They got second place with their entry. The first place was a big of a surprise, a big of a bomb. Gaia Machine by Approximate. You had seen them releasing their debut in 2009, so they were 3 years in the making for this piece, and it was very big. It had a lot of procedural generated stuff, a lot of scenes. It created like this whole world with a mix of robotic and nature-like scenes. It was very surprising at the time. It took the demo scene by storm, and it kind of rekindled the interest of big groups to compete at Revision to challenge Approximate for the 64K competition. And it was what happened in 2013 was that people were not ready yet, so it kind of had, well, I'm saying mixed things here, but Gaia Machine kindled the interest in people of doing 64Ks again, but they didn't deliver exactly in Breakpoint. In Revision 2013, the only group that really delivered something was Brain Control, and they had been doing a lot of 64Ks as well. They had done their own work engine as well, similar to what Conspiracy did with Addict. They have it released as well. If you check their website, you can find more stuff there. A lot of interesting scenes, a lot of effort put into it, into the 64K. It was pretty much the only Distant 64K in 2013. It was a bit of a slow year. In 2014, a new group came on the scene called Mercury. You might have heard of them. And they released the Timeless, which they had already been releasing a few other things. Meanwhile, one of the guys from Approximate passed away. He was called Meteoric, or Meaty for short, and as a rekindling of the Scene.org awards that had stopped being done, the people started doing the Meteoric Awards in honor of that guy, Meteoric, who had done the synth for Approximate. So, anyways, Mercury came into the scene. They were doing stuff with only pixel shading only, so they do a lot of space wrapping, but they're only doing 2 triangles on the screen and do the entire scene on that, just doing ray marching, ray casting, whatever the hell you call it, rendering stuff in those triangles, everything done calculated on the pixel shader. They did this whole library that you can find with distance functions calculated for different forms, different ways, and they became quite popular with that, and a lot of groups use that library, the Mercury. I don't know the exact name for it, but if you search their website, if you go for Mercury and look for the thing, it's there. So yeah, this was the big intro, 64K intro from Revision in 2014. There wasn't much anything else happening in 2014 in terms of 64Ks, not as big as the Timeless at least. But then in 2015 we had another very cool 64K compo at Revision. Another clash of big groups. First on, or actually in third place, we had Small Matters of the Heart by Approximate. Very nice intro from the guys doing something again. In second place we had the Mercury again with the 64K called On, which ended up winning the best high-end intro award for the Meteorics Awards. And on first place, we got the comeback from Conspiracy yet again. Conspiracy has this long history of dominating 64K compos, or doing a comeback with a killer 64K compo. And in 2015, of Revision, they released Offscreen Colonies. Um, Moving on to 2016, we once again only have the main big 64Ks are always at Revision, and Conspiracy released Darkness Lay Your Eyes Upon Me at Revision. Very good 64K. I particularly liked this one personally. Had this very dark, eerie mood. It got nominated and it actually won a lot of Meteoric awards. It got the Public's Choice Award. It got the Best Storytelling Storyline award and the best high-end demo, even though it's a 64K. There was no best high-end intro at the time on the Meteoric. So anyways, moving on. The first place for Revision 2016 64K compo went for Fermi Paradox from Mercury. So Mercury once again stepping up to the challenge at Revision, winning with this fantastic release. Both these entries from Conspiracy and Mercury were phenomenal, over the top, really exploring or going beyond what was known to be possible in 64K, especially in terms of direction and scene layouting and creating this ambience, which you mostly were only focused on the technological aspects of the 64K, and these guys with these two intros really stepped up the game, so they really put like a very high bar, but at the same time it inspired other people to get back into the 64K category and try to do stuff again. There was this whole movement trying to get Assembly to have a 64K competition once again, but we'll get to that. First I wanted to mention Elysian by Logicoma. Newcomers, well, they're old guys, but they reformed this group called Logicoma, and they've been working together very tightly, and they did this awesome release called Elysian. It got the Best Soundtrack Meteoric Award. It got first place at Trashpanda 64K. It's quite worth mentioning because these guys are going to do more 64Ks later on. In Revision 2017, we had another very big 64K compo. 6th place went to Guberniya from Macau Exports. Very celestial ambient kind of 64K. I really love it because I'm into this kind of sound. Very standstill, moving, insightful, not insightful, what is it? Introspective kind of 64K. Really love what they did, and they were pushing for. These were some of the guys that were pushing for having a 64K category again available at Assembly. So they were trying to show what they could do, so they would get people to go into Assembly and compete there as well. In 5th place we had Ctrl-Alt-Test again with the H release called Immersion. Very nice intro, also 5th place, contributing a lot to this very good compo at Revision 2017. In 4th place we had Search Response by Approximate. So Approximate, once again, they take their time. They take like 3 years each to do each of their intros, but they always end up delivering. And this time they only got 4th place because at 3rd place we had Engage by Logicoma. Very great intro, one of my favorites actually. Ended up winning the Meteoric Award for the best high-end 64K intro category. In 2nd place we had Vessel by Conspiracy. And in 1st place we had Poo-Brain, which had been doing a lot on the demo front end and doing a few 4Ks, and they finally did a full-fledged 64K for Revision, and they completely won the place. They got 1st place, they got a couple nominations for Meteoric Awards as well, and they used a lot of 4-clang and 64-clang as well. Actually, I'm wondering if this intro in particular uses 64-clang or not. It says synth by Gopher, so I guess it does use the 64-clang. Another interesting aspect to mention is that Logicoma started doing their own synth as well. So there are, which is called Wave Saber, I believe. So there are multiple synths available now for you to do stuff on 64Ks as well, which is quite interesting for the scene. And most of them are available. You can just contact the guys and they will give you the open source or explain you the process of how you can create music using those tools. So if you want to do a music for 64K or 4K, contact those guys, talk to them, show what you can do with their tools, and someone might pick up your track to do something with it. In 2018 we had another big battle for the 64K. This time it was Inc that got second place with a transphosphorylation. And Inc would end up joining forces with Poo-Brain later on to do some releases, so this is also interesting to notice. In first place we got When Silence Dims the Stars Above by Conspiracy, which was a sequel to Darkness Layer, Eyes Upon Me, and the conclusion of this whole trilogy of very slow-moving, dystopic, end-of-world by a comet slamming into the Earth trilogy that Conspiracy has been doing for a few years. So they got first place once again. Very high praise for Conspiracy, still dominating the 64 kilobyte compo after all these years. We had an assembly 64K compo again in 2018. The second place went for 100% by Macau Exports, and the first place went to actually, I don't know who got the first place. Who got the first place? Let's see, the first place went to Out of the Box by Adapt. That's it. I apologize, Adapt. I didn't have that information open here. But yeah, it was good to see Adapt doing 64Ks as well, because they were known to always work only on demos for assembly. And this time they did a 64K, and their whole particle system weird style that they have really worked well, and they end up winning assembly 2018. So it's pretty much where we are right now. I have one more entry that I would like to talk about, which is Bros Before Hoes by Poo-Brain and Logicoma, was released at Evoke 2018. It got the first place. And another entry that is worth mentioning, because it was also nominated for the Meteoric 64K or high-end intro category, is Trashpanda by Logicoma, which was got first place at Trsak 2018. So that's pretty much where we are right now. And if you check out Revision in 2019, 1 week from this video being posted, you will see that you will have the Meteorics show being live streamed, where you will check which of these 5 intros that I just mentioned, and I will repeat the names right now real quick. Bros Before Hoes by Poo-Brain and Logicoma, Transphosphorylation by Inc, 100% by Macau Exports, When Silence Dims the Stars Above by Conspiracy, or Trashpanda by Logicoma. One of these intros will be awarded the best 64K intro of 2018, so tune in to know about that, or be at Revision, which would be even better. So that's all for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this series of videos. This was part of my Patreon. If you would like to help me support me to help me do more of these kind of videos, you can go to patreon.com/psenough and figure out what tier you would like to be in. This one in particular was a request from the Pick a Topic, Any Topic tier, where one person, which is the senior who prefers to remain himself nameless, suggests me to do stuff about the demo scene, which I have been doing, and I hope this was useful for all of you guys who wanted to know more a little about the demo scene, and in particular the 64K category for intros in the demo scene for the Windows platform. There are more platforms, it's not just Windows, there are a lot of stuff being done out there for Amiga and stuff like that, that is also small sized, which is worth checking out. We might do a video about that eventually. So anyways, I hope this video was useful. See you next time. Bye bye everyone. Take care.